Stocks are lower here a little bit this morning, down 0.18 for SPX. Nas is down 0.31. You got the Dow Jones down just a tiny bit. Get the Russell about flat here on the day. And I am actually watching the Russell for some possible entries on the long side. The dollar index seems to be holding up just fine, despite Friday's bit of a sell-off on Friday for the dollar index. A little bit of a bounce coming in here this morning. We'll come back to the dollar and look at all of these things in more detail in just a moment. The Nikkei down 0.25%. VIX up 5%. So a bit of volatility coming into the picture here this morning. Chinese stocks down 1% here today, giving back some of those big gains that we saw on Friday. Gold is up 0.5%. And I mean, look at that chart right there. That is a beautiful chart right there. Dare I say that it was a lot of perfect candles here.
Perfect candle.
I mean, look at that move on gold. That is a beautiful move. If you are a bull right now, then congratulations. That is the kind of move that is a game changer. You're talking about just this last swing here, about 5% gain further in the price of gold. That's huge. Gold does not want to quit this year. It is absolutely gold's year. Gold is winning the Super Bowl this year, that's for sure. Or the World Cup, whichever you'd like to think of. Gold is winning it, whatever it is. Gold's been absolutely killing it. Massive, massive upside. Good morning to everybody, by the way, in the chat. Seeing some people saying hello. Hey, James, what's up, man? Good to see everybody. Yeah, so when you see gold up like this, I'll tell you what. There's this tendency for a lot of people to say gold is just going to have this big old correction. But I want to take you guys as a quick reminder to the monthly chart. Yes, the 12-month chart. This is every candle is a full, I want the 12-month chart. The 12-month chart. I want to show you something. This is the price of gold, right? Do you see how many years in a row gold can go up? Before you shout, oh, gold is overbought, before you say it's got to come back down into correction territory, do you want to play that game? Do you want to play roulette here? Inverse roulette, where 5 out of the 6 chambers shoot you? That's trying to play gold to the short side, in my personal opinion. Does this look overbought in the short term? Sure, but let me show you something right here. Let me show you. Do you think this looks overbought? That looks pretty overbought, right? What happened in the next candle? This is 2010. 2010, the market ripped higher for gold. It was a massive up year for gold, up about, lo and behold, 30%, about how much we're up this year. But then look, if you're somebody who's saying bearish right now on gold, it's got to come down. Look what happened. We said this is 2010. Look at 2011. Look at 2012. The gold market, from those what seemed so overbought, went up another 35% before topping out for a few years. My point with showing you this is that when you look at gold's price right now and you say to yourself, this is overbought. I'm going to get in front of this and I'm going to go short and it's going to tumble back down to earth. The problem with saying that when something is in a bull run is that you are most likely wrong. You are most likely wrong about that. Because when bull markets happen, it's so difficult to call the top. We could do more examples, by the way. That's just one example, but go back in time and look at this. You know, if you had called this overbought, gold up 137%. What year was that, by the way? 1980? Holy junk. Look at that. So 1980 up 130%. If you had called that overbought, look what happened next year. It went up another 64 freaking percent. This is gold, guys. A boring metal that billionaires stock away. Gold goes up over time. Now, that does not mean you chase this thing. It does not mean that you just say, oh, okay, so I'm just going to go all in and I'm going to certainly make money. No. You still wait for pullbacks. You still wait for opportunities to get better pricing. But understand that trying to say gold has to come down right now is a fool's game. if you have a fundamental reason and something changes, you know what happened in 2013, 2014, 2015? The economy kind of rebounded a little bit from all the 2008 stuff. Look at 2008, gold market went flying high because the world fell apart and people were terrified, right? Right now, what's happening? Well, people are pretty scared about what's going to happen with the election. They're scared about the Middle East, Russia, China. These things have people on edge. And so gold is going up again. Not only that, the Fed is printing money like a monster. Well, they have been, especially in the last few years with like 2021 and all that stuff. There was a lot of money printing that came into the system, which should make prices go up on gold. Gold should be higher than this, in my opinion. It should keep going. 2,700, in my opinion, you'll look back on that in the long term and say that was cheap. That's my opinion, and I could be dead wrong. In 5 years, gold could be down to 445 an ounce, and you can send me this video and say, you're an idiot. And I'll say, yep. But most likely, I'm right about that. Most likely, you'll look back at the price of gold at 27.45 and say, oh, that's a good price. Type yes in the chat if you agree. Type no if you disagree with me. Now, granted, we could have this period, in which case that was a pretty nasty drawdown for gold. If you were the unfortunate person who bought the top, you saw a 45% pullback on your money. I'll tell you this. In my lifetime, gold has had a couple big dips. I was born in 1996, and I should have been trading gold at that time because I could have bought gold at really low prices and made a bunch of money. But stupid me, I was playing with trucks and tractors in the sandbox at that time and was doing the wrong things. I was playing with sand when I could have been playing with gold, right? 96, baby. Yes, Laura, 96. Not a bad year. They did the Olympics in Atlanta that year. I remember I competed in them. I was 0 years old. 0 years old. That's when I won my first gold medal. Anyways, jokes aside, the point is that I'm trying to get at, when you look at gold, when you look at silver, when you look at the S&P, and you think to yourself, this thing is overbought, just be careful that you're not making the same old mistake that people have made for generations of thinking assets should be overpriced. They can go up for a very long time. A very long time.
Oh, Chris Pulver took a trade in our Discord.
Oh, really? Let me see.
Pulver alerts are now available in the A1 Trading Discord. If you want access to everything Chris Pulver is trading, click the link down below, or click the link being dropped in the chat now to speak directly with a team member.
This is my current watch list. I'm looking for possible shorts on the euro, longs on Bitcoin, NASDAQ, S&P, Dow Jones, Russell, all the US indices, and Bitcoin. I'm mostly watching. I'd like to look at the euro just to see if I can get that sell set up anytime soon. This thing has been leaving me in the dust and really painful. I really was looking for that euro short. You can actually see my setup was right here. At the time, I was looking for a pop back up into this resistance level, or the 38.2% retracement for a possible sell setup. And now the move has really gone off without me. So I'm looking for a correction if we get one. I'm not saying I think we will, because I'm not going to go long the euro. But if you do get a pullback on the euro, I'm looking for possible continuations to the downside. I think that the US economy is, some of the readings that we're getting are very upbeat right now and look really strong.
I just want everyone to know, like, what is the market expecting for rate cuts expectation going forward.
Yeah. What's the latest?
I think that most surprisingly that Bank of Canada is most likely to do 50 base rate cut next meeting. I think that's 23rd or something. And then New Zealand also doing a double rate cut. because everyone is rate cutting. But I think that's the more fun one, like a double one, more.
Yeah,
punch.
so you're seeing RBNZ, you're seeing Bank of Canada. Pretty much everybody's cutting rates. That dollar CAD, like you just mentioned, I was pulling it up a second ago. Dollar CAD is flying here, which makes sense with what you're saying. Remember, guys, that for currency newbies, when a central bank is cutting rates, it is generally more bearish for the currency. When a central bank is hiking rates, it is generally more bullish for a currency. So as you just mentioned, if they're talking about, bigger, juicier rate cuts in Canada, 50 basis points, aka 0.5% interest rate cut, could certainly weaken the CAD and continue. And you can already see it kind of happening as we look at it. Is that one that you're looking to trade? Or so now that you have that data shared with us, Ivan, which ones do you then look to potentially trade? Do you trade in the direction of those expectations?
I have a problem. Because what's going to be strong when dollar's weak? Isn't that dollar? But I would a short dollar. So that doesn't make sense. So I've been trying to get into a bit of a more interesting, kind of kicking myself in the leg kind of trade. I tried to buy New Zealand CAD last week.
New Zealand CAD, okay. And what's the thought process there?
Exactly. There is none. No, there is. So, in my opinion, CAD is going to get stronger in the end. New Zealand's going to get stronger in the end. It's just that when they cut or when they are pricing in cut, it's very weak. But then with lower interest rates, they will gain momentum because it will be a risk-on situation. So if you go back to like when the case is when everyone cuts at the same time and you go back to 2020 fall, dollar, like New Zealand, so dollar fell, everything else strengthened, but the world was crashing around us. So that's kind of where I am taking it from.
Yeah, fair enough. And what about the yen? You are the yen man after all. So
I'm trying to distract you because it's in a range.
Yeah.
So what am I gonna do?
That's so true. And that's one of the things too. I've been talking about this with other people on the stream as well. Is like when you get a nice basket of things that you can trade, when one thing is doing nothing, you can just move on to other things.
Yeah. Now, as I really want this one to be aggressively higher, but when I see so mentally, this is kind of what happens without me telling you. But when I see that or that, like somewhere in that area, I'm like range, or we are pausing. And then I've been right since 10th of October, so for 11 days. I've been right about range. So I take a seat back. I don't want to trade a range. I hate ranges. I lose money in ranges. I will be a poor man in ranges. So I'll wait.
Yeah, that's very true. The ranges, especially if you are, for traditional trend followers like yourself and myself, usually that is where I lose most of my money too, is when things chop back and forth. They don't move. They don't follow through. Definitely a tougher environment to trade with the trend following strategy. So definitely agree wherever the trend is happening. My question, Ivan, too, you mentioned wanting to sell the dollar. What's your theory there? Why is dollar potential sell for you?
Do you have a different opinion, or are you just having fun now?
No, I actually am leaning more bullish. However, not at these levels. Like if I get a pullback in the dollar, I'm actually more bullish on it than not. Just simply U.S. data has come in so strong recently. But I'm curious what your thought is. Of course, you could be looking to sell, make money on the way down, and then maybe I look for longs here or here, and it doesn't matter if we agree or disagree. But I'm just curious what your thought process on dollar bearishness is.
If you can flip the screen, and 2.4 is the reason. Well, I can also go to PCE for that matter, or personal consumption expenditures, or PPI, and say, hey, look, but this is the piece of paper that I have been holding for so long, and say we have to wait for inflation to come down, then we will cut rates. But then I can change my view or my my emphasis on what matters right now when the data doesn't align anymore. I still need to follow the data. So if I'm following the data as we have had a little bit of a downtrend ever since June, we are supposed to be bearish on dollar. It's just, in my opinion, though, it's just, I don't know, pricing in for the election. I don't know. Something.
Yeah, the tricky part I have with the inflation stuff is, let me show my screen too. I think like dollar bearish against certain currencies, I can definitely see. My trickiness with like UK and Europe is that I don't know if you saw the UK's inflation. That's crazy.
Mhm.
Europe,
Mhm.
UK, 1.7%. So I do see, you know, all central banks seem to be seeing a pretty good decline in inflation. But the pace for Europe and the UK still seems pretty solid compared to, well, even like dipping below their targets, right? 2% is the target. We're now seeing UK last week with CPI at 1.7%. Seems like they're going to want to cut rates pretty quick. So it's almost like for me with the dollar, I'm just more like maybe not like incredibly bullish on it per se, but more so just, well, there's seeing inflation come down, but not as fast or not as far as maybe the European counterparts. One way to also play this, Ivan, is if you're just kind of like generally thinking central banks are going to cut rates aggressively, gold is kind of the trade this year for that. You know, gold is like all the central banks cutting rates. Okay, gold's just going to fly.
Yeah. You're throwing me a curveball here. I agree. But I don't know. Well, maybe that little trade plan there might have. No, I didn't. Okay, actually I did. Like I don't seem to find entries on gold. Like it always spooks me out for whatever reason. Left, right, or center. So confidence is a
gold
virtue,
is inherently it's tricky, right? And it like will move like this for months and months and months, and on the first pullback it just completely reverses. It's the trickiest. It's like riding a dragon almost. But I mean, when it comes to the dollar, I do, however, see the case for dollar needs to chill maybe at some point. You know, you've had this just complete uptrend. That being said, I personally can't see shorting it just yet. Maybe at 104, you could, if you have something that you like better, you know, perhaps the yen. I'm not sure. You know, if there's something that you prefer, maybe there's room to kind of sell that rally and look for kind of a corrective move. I just personally see, you know, pullbacks on the dollar still making sense until proven otherwise. But you know, maybe there's, I'm not actually sure what, let's see, can we add like New Zealand, Japanese yen? Actually, let's take out that because that's ugly. New Zealand, 2.2% inflation, dollar 2.4. What about Australia? Australia's giving me, that's TRY. We don't want Turkey. Why is Turkey showing up when I do Australia? We got to fix that.
The bug.
There's a bug in the system here. Anyways, yeah, I mean, you can kind of see just the overall trend for inflation across all these different countries is still very intact. We're seeing some good progress there on the inflation stuff. The only thing I have for the pound, though, is like when pound goes down to 1.7, is that sort of like recessionary? Like, is the pound going to start just completely breaking lower and just continue lower? That's the question, because 1.7% inflation is almost like worrisome. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I just want to. There's a lot of things you're leaving hanging like threads here and there. So my brain is like overdue here. But okay, cool. One thing at a time. Kevin says dollar is quite bullish. I don't look at technicals when I look at market. Look at fundamentals. Fundamentals can be bullish or bearish, depend on the eyes. That's why I always say stick to how you see the world. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Nick, because you both can be right at the same time. It's just how you interpret the data. Secondly, the GDP, the growth in the UK previously has been negative. So growth is not great. Inflation is not great. Can it be a recession? Yeah, because now, as far as I've been talking to my UK friends, is that they say that the energy cap has lifted, so that inflation might now come back from energy again, because you're allowed to now charge customers more for heating and gas. So yes, it's worrisome, it's low, but with higher inflation, higher energy prices and oil price, we might see this as a bottom in a way. But
yeah, that's a good point too. The whole, when you talk about the UK too, it's different than in the US. Like the Russia-Ukraine situation hit them especially hard because of a lot of the energy supplies were coming from that area. So with the US, it wasn't directly as impactful, and that was why UK inflation skyrocketed up to like 10%. It's really plummeted off of a little bit of easement in that world. So we'll see how much of that is inflation is lack of demand, or if it was simply just a improvement on the oil supply stuff.
You're gonna price out Tesla?
I'm not out for an individual play because I'm already in it. I got into this credit spread with the intention of, if earnings is solid, it's an income trade and it goes up, and that's an easy win. If price goes down, I'm going to take advantage of the higher implied volatility, and I'm going to repair this trade by basically closing out the long put at a price that I think is worthy of owning, which truthfully is back into like 180s or 170s. I still think this is a big indecision trade. Like there's not a lot of upside unless this thing's going to rip up towards 265 or better. If it goes to the downside and we have a couple of gaps, I still think the stock itself will fill those gaps. But yeah, so I don't want to price in just an earnings play because I have the credit spread. But there are a couple other ones I'd like to look at. So notable wise, let me see if I've got a screenshot in here.
How far out was that sell put again?
It was out to the 15th of November, so I went to just the monthly.
Okay, and it was 225?
225 was the sell put, 220 was the buy put. And if price is going to drop, then there is a chance that I get assigned. If price falls, I may get assigned on the shares just by the broker. But I'm okay with that. If I get assigned, I will hopefully see price drop to like maybe 185, 180. And the nice thing is this is all hypothetical here, but let's say that I do get assigned. Okay, if I do get assigned on shares, even going out a week, let's go out like not this Friday, but next Friday. If I go out 2 weeks and I have an at the money call, I can take off about $9 or $10 every single week with doing a covered call. So that's why I'm not worried about repairing the stock. So even if I take on the risk of a credit spread and I take on the assignment risk, even if I get assigned, I go out 1 or 2 weeks and I use a wheel strategy just to add covered calls. I can get out of this trade for probably, $2, $3, $5 pretty easily. If I flip it for, $5 or $10 a share, that's even better. So I'm just confident that the premiums are high enough that I can repair the stock and generate some income out of it.
Gotcha.
Yep. But if it goes higher, then we get above 225, then we just have a winning credit spread, and that's just simple income. So pretty easy.
Are you going to take any earnings trades?
Yes, I was just going to look at them right now with you. So I was going to see here. This is kind of an at a glance from Earnings Whisper. There's like 140, maybe there's more than that this week. Let me check. These are some notables. If we go to, yeah, there's a lot more than I thought this week. Okay, so we have a total. We have over like 400 this week. So we had 39, 70, 134, 175, and 29. Yeah, we've got 447 stocks reporting this week. So the meat of the week is Wednesday, Thursday. You've got over 310 stocks reporting on Wednesday, Thursday. So that's really where most of the earnings is going to come in. I'm curious if the market's going to gap higher or lower based on the consensus or what happens with some of the big notables. But if I look at this here, are there any logos that stand out to take a look at and trade? So, Verizon, 3M, not necessarily like high volatility plays, GE Aerospace, Lockheed Martin, like some of these defensive, Raytheon was in here. Those are sitting near all-time highs. I'm curious how those look. I don't know, I might keep it really cost effective and just do some bull call spreads. Or if we're sitting at these highs, maybe take a stab. But I mean, Netflix was pulling back 4 days last week and then ripped up through earnings and actually got me paid on 2 bull call spreads. So I don't mind taking a look at some of these. I'm probably not taking any trades for Monday, But a couple things I'd look at here, Frank, would be either Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then price out for a Friday expiration, and just see with like a simple bull call spread, if I buy a call, sell a call, or I buy a put, sell a put, and just kind of see how these things stack up. So any
Yeah.
notables that you like this week? Any charts you want to take a look at, or any earnings you want to take a look at?
I do think Lockheed will move.
I do
on
too.
earnings, and that's tomorrow morning.
Okay, so that's before markets. We can take a look at that one.
I'm thinking that, so they're projected to have lower earnings.
Okay.
We're now at, is this an all-time high for Lockheed?
Most likely.
I would say that a lot of things would have to go right for it to move up. So maybe, I don't know, looking for volatility, but I guess more geared towards the downside. So if we were to see a very good beat in everything,
Yeah.
I don't know how much higher it would go. And then
Right.
if it does pop higher, I don't know how much it would last.
Right.
Or how long it would last up there. So I would guess position for downside.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe
or little movement or downside.
Yeah, I'd almost be willing to. So Lockheed tomorrow morning. I don't know if I want to go out just this week for expiration or give it another week. Because if we did this where Lockheed blows out earnings and then fades, maybe I want to go a little bit higher. Yeah, we'll find out. I'm just trying to think here. I mean, bull call spread's probably pretty cheap. I mean, this is one way to take a $600 stock and not have to pay an arm and a leg for it. So if I go to, what is it, LMT? Yeah, so let's go to LMT, see what this one actually looks like for earnings. So if I go to the 25th and I buy, let's let this fill up here for a second. Do I have any notable open interest levels? I've got the 610, and the 600 are popping up a lot on the call side. 353 at 650, that's way up there. I guess before we jump into this, let me actually see what the earnings does. So option slam. Let's go to LMT.
I wonder what it would say.
So we're looking at about an average move of 4%. So I've got 5 and change, 4.74, 4.31, 4.77, 4.72, 3, 3.8, 3, 3.55. The average is 4.15. That's fair. I mean, a 4% move on a $600 stock is definitely a mover. So 614.95 times 0.01 or 0415. So we're looking at about a 25.50 move. Let's look at what the expected move is here. This shows 22 for the market makers on Tasty Trade. So 22 to 25.50 or so. Fair. All right. If I buy the 615 and I sell, it's just favoring. This isn't terrible, Frank. If I paid $1.10 to make $1.40, that's not a terrible trade. If I were to say, I think it's going to go down, if I buy the 615 and sell the 612, I pay $1.30. So it's actually more expensive to pay on the put side than it is the call side. Not, it doesn't, I mean, there's no difference. But it's just crazy to me that the price skew is it's just so much more expensive to buy puts right now. And I just think that's where we're a little bit stickier on the volatility side, but it's crazy how much more expensive puts are. So I'm curious, does it blow the top off on Tuesday and then fade the rest of the week? I don't know. It's not that expensive. I'm trying to think, what else could I do on this trade? I don't really want to trade it both ways. If I were to, I mean, I could do it similar to what I did on TM. Is it TMS? TMS is the, nope. TSM. Taiwan Semi I did. Sorry, TSM. Trading at 201. And I'm looking for this thing to get below $12. I've got a $12 credit. I'm looking for it to come back to like 10.98 on the debit side. So I need to see if TSM will fade a little bit towards that earnings gap.
Did you know we do a live trading show Monday through Friday with guests from all over the world? To get notified when we go live, click the bell button next to the subscribe button or check in at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We have helpful, free content in the description below and on our website, a1trading.com. Thanks for watching today's video, and we'll see you tomorrow.